Well, it is crunch time for the Supreme Court as justices have today and tomorrow to hand down rulings on several major cases. Joining me now, Wayne Unger, an assistant professor at the Quinnipiac University School of Law, to talk about it. And boy, there's a lot to talk about. Wayne, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Of course, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
And I'm glad you're here. First thing I want to talk about is a decision that was already made, one regarding misinformation and the First Amendment. Can the government not compel social media sites to take down misinformation that they think is damaging to national security, but can they even coerce it? The reason why I want to ask you about it is because, if my understanding is correct, the justices didn't necessarily rule on the merits of the case in the First Amendment either way. So what did they do?
So that's a great question. What the justices did in that case this week was they kicked it out because the plaintiffs who brought the case, the various states, did not have what's called Article 3 standing. And Article 3 standing refers to the judicial branch in Article 3 of the United States Constitution. And the judicial branch, the federal courts, can only hear cases in controversies, which basically has been defined as you need to have a sufficient injury to bring the case, and that injury needs to be concrete, particularized, and actually realized. And so in short here, they said, well, the states didn't have any concrete injury, so they threw it out for that reason.
And that means if they can find somebody who has been injured, that case comes right back again, and maybe we do see them rule on its merits, right?
In theory, yes. And I would go as far as speculating, because I listened to the oral argument that occurred in that case, that the majority of the justices probably would say that the Biden administration did nothing wrong in this case, again, on the merits, because the Biden administration just simply asked, not compelled nor coerced, the social media platforms to remove misinformation.
Okay. I want to ask you about a strange occurrence yesterday. It looks like an unsigned, maybe draft opinion regarding Idaho's prohibition of abortion. It came down. I'm not sure what we should be making of that, given that it's not actually the decision, but maybe it is.
So it's certainly a high probability that it's the official decision. What happened was some sort of administrative error where the case, or the opinion rather, was posted before it was officially announced, and it was quickly taken down, and the court admitted to the mistake. So it's interesting to see a decision accidentally leaked, and at this point, we can, I think, safely assume that that decision isn't going to change much. So I wouldn't be surprised if it gets released officially by the end of this week.
Okay, Wayne, thank you. Moving on, next question. The Supreme Court yesterday overturned a bribery conviction of a former mayor in Indiana named James Snyder. Now, he's convicted of taking $13,000 from a trucking company after prosecutors said he had steered about $1 million worth of city contracts towards the company. But Snyder said, that wasn't a bribe. I was just paying for consulting work. And it appears that the justices agreed with him. Is the timing of when everything happened really the big decision here?
No, I don't think it is. So the decision here was really based on the text of the statute, and the justices compared essentially what is a bribe against what is a gratuity. And a gratuity is something that you receive afterwards, whereas a bribe is something you receive before. And so the justices made a comparison there and looked at the text of the statute and ultimately determined that what occurred here was not a corrupt action.
Yes. Okay. And that's that kind of hair splitting, I guess, they have to do. And that's where a lot of the controversy comes from. One last thing I want to ask you about. The justices also earlier upheld a law that prohibits people who are under domestic violence restraining orders from having a gun. It seems like it's the first time, Wayne, in a long time that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of some gun regulations. What did you make of that decision?
Yeah, so this was actually surprising in many ways. So this particular court, being a conservative majority, has over the last 10, 15 years has ruled in favor of, say, more broad and less restrictive Second Amendment rights to bear arms. And so this case marked a staunch difference, where the case actually came out 7-1, with Justice Thomas being the lone dissenter. in deciding that there are cases in which the government has an interest in essentially taking away somebody's weapons or preventing somebody from getting a weapon. And here it's cases of domestic abuse. So a little surprising, but also relieving in many ways.
In such a hyper-partisan environment, it looks like the Supreme Court still surprises people from time to time with how they rule. Mr. Unger, thank you so much for taking the time to explain a lot of this for us. It's hard to make some of these things a little more accessible for all of us average Joes, so we certainly appreciate your knowledge and your insight.
My pleasure, and there's more decisions to come today and tomorrow.
That means we should have you on the show again, maybe tomorrow and throughout the course of next week. Thank you again for the time.